Coming up on the Paper Talk today, we'll be looking at attackers. Manchester United being linked with two, count them, two attackers. One is Bryan Mbeumo. Who's the other one? Let's get into it. Jay here, Stretford, Paddock. This is the Paper Talk. As you can see, I'm outside Old Trafford and the weather it's mild, so you probably won't need your parkers. Loads of Manchester United stories to get through. Before we do so, though, make sure you are hitting like, share and subscribe. We're almost there. We're almost at 800,000 subscribers. And with your support, yes, we can get there. The big news today, doing the rounds, is about Viktor Gyokeres. I'm going to get to that in a minute. First of all, though, I want to mention Bryan Mbeumo. I know I pronounce that different every time, but we'll go with Mbeumo. I think that is the right one. Let me know if I'm wrong. I had this yesterday. Seems like a few papers are still running it. The idea that maybe Spurs could be in for Bryan Mbeumo. It looks like Thomas Frank is going to go to Spurs to replace Ange Postecoglou. Obviously, Thomas Frank managed Mbeumo at Brentford. So the talk there, or the rumours are, the stories are that Bryan Mbeumo will come in. Oh, sorry, Thomas Frank will go into Spurs and then try and take Bryan Mbeumo with him. Is that going to happen? Potentially. I'm not so sure, though, because we know that Bryan Mbeumo does want to come to Manchester United. He wants to come to Old Trafford. Now, we haven't got Champions League football. That hasn't changed. Spurs have. But if that was going to sway him, then he probably could have gone Spurs before or told his agent or whoever that he was interested in Spurs before Thomas Frank was linked with the move there, because you might go, well, maybe the Thomas Frank move is the one that will persuade him. But if you're going to go Spurs, you're going to go Spurs. I don't necessarily think just because your manager's going there, that makes you change your mind. So I don't know. Let me know what you think. But I said this yesterday in my news. There's a few more reports on it, but none of them seem to be moving the story forward at all. It's just the same old thing that if Frank goes to Spurs, then maybe he takes his former attacker with him. But I still think it's likely, from what we're hearing and all the reporting, that Mbeumo does come to Manchester United. He made it clear that is where he wants to come. The only sort of sticking point seems to be the fee. United were in with, I think, a 44 million plus 10 million in add-ons bid for him. We need to come in with a second one. That second bid was reported to have happened, although that wasn't the case, because a few people who did report it then rolled back on it and said, actually, United haven't gone in with a second bid. So we're waiting to see that happens. It is expected probably today. As soon as it happens, we will let you know, as always. Let's talk about Viktor Gyokeres then, because that's the big one doing the rounds this morning. This is it. This is the big one. I think Fabrizio Romano, who's got a column in Give Me Sport, spoke about the fact that there was contact made last week with Viktor Gyokeres and Manchester United, and Manchester United and Viktor Gyokeres' representatives, or those involved in the Gyokeres deal, I think is how Romano termed it. So it does seem as though Manchester United are trying to make that move happen. Now, there's two questions. Is Gyokeres keen to come to Manchester United? We don't have Champions League football. Yes, he knows Ruben Amorim. I just mentioned that with Thomas Frank and Bryan Mbeumo, though. That might not necessarily be enough. If you don't want to go to the club to persuade you, it might. I don't know. But even though we haven't got Champions League football, and yes, we have the former Sporting manager, we're still a huge club. It would be a massive move for Viktor Gyokeres to go from Sporting to Manchester United. No disrespect to Sporting, but it is a step up. We all know that. And also, you can maybe sell it him as a case of, look, we're making some moves here. We're bringing in new players. We're trying to get back into the Champions League. We're trying to challenge for the top honours, and you could be the guy to do it. So there's that question of whether he'll come. The second question is, can we afford him? Now, the talk is that his buyout clause is around 60 million quid. I think it's pretty similar, if not identical, to Matheus Cunha's around 62.5 million pounds. So that is I think it is a bit of a bargain, to be honest with you. I'm going to use the word bargain. 62 million quid, is it a bargain? Can you say that? Well, I think for a player that scored the amount of goals he scored, it's decent. It really is, because you don't get a striker who's that prolific for usually less than 70 million nowadays. Strikers are a sort of rare commodity. And if you've got a prolific goal-scoring striker, even one that's scored the brunt of his goals in the Portuguese league, you're usually looking at paying upwards of 70 million quid. So maybe a bargain is a bit of a stretch, but I think it's a decent fee. For all parties, I think Sporting get a decent chunk of change, and Manchester United get a player for, not too excessive a fee. Now, despite the fact that fee might be okay, have Manchester United got it? Have we got 62.5 million or whatever it is, around, let's just say 60 million quid for the sake of argument? Have we got that if we are going to get Mbeumo, if we have just bought Matheus Cunha? Probably not, unless we move someone on. The talk that we PSR compliant, we had Mark Critchley spoken about that in the Athletic last week, I should say, that we do have certain funds, but we're allowed to spend certain funds, but do we have those funds? It would seem like we do need to move players on. Now, we've got a whole raft of players that don't have much of a future at Manchester United. You look at Marcus Rashford, you look at Jadon Sancho, you look at Anthony. You could probably throw Alejandro Garnacho into that mix. Now, those 4 players, you'd expect to be able to get at least 100-odd million quid for them all. That would fund a Viktor Gyokeres signing. The question is, when are you going to sell him and who are you going to sell him to? Because Chelsea aren't in for Sancho. Aston Villa, it doesn't seem too keen to bring Marcus Rashford back to Villa Park, or he's not too keen to go back there. And Real Betis can't afford Anthony. So you're left in this little bit of limbo at the minute, and you have to wonder how long Viktor Gyokeres is going to be on the market for, and do Manchester United have to make those signings before we get Viktor Gyokeres? And if we do, is that going to work out? Does that timeline work out? Let me know what you think. Get involved in the chat and the comments. Some people are questioning us going for Viktor Gyokeres. I've seen a few people who are going, look, he's done well in the Portuguese league. We were speaking about this on the Brewery the other day. One of those rare occasions where we actually spoke about modern football. And this season, or the season just gone, Gyokeres has scored the bulk of his goals, I think, against the lower league, or the teams in the bottom half of the table. So people looking at that and going, is that a worry? Is that a concern? I think it's non-penalty goals they were looking at. The season before, though, I think he had scored quite a few goals against the top teams. Also, he scored a hat-trick against Manchester City, let's not forget. So it's not like he can't score against decent teams. But some people are looking at the move going, is he quite at a level that we need? Is he quite at a level that he's being touted at? Yes, he's scoring loads of goals, but is he scoring a lot of those goals against teams that are far inferior to the kind of teams you're going to face in the Premier League? I like Gyokeres. I'd love to see him at Old Trafford. If this deal happens, I'll be buzzing. My only reservation is whether it happens, because at the minute, it seems a little bit up in the air. Now, one sort of twist or fly in the ointment, if you will, was that Arsenal were in for him. Now, you think if Arsenal are in for him, surely with the fact that they're challenging for the title pretty much every year now, I know they're not winning it, but they're up there. They have got Champions League football. They actually did quite well in the Champions League this season, getting to the semis, beating Real Madrid, and emphatically on the way as well. You think that would be an easier sell for a potential signing. You go, look, you come to the Emirates, you're going to be challenging for the top honours, you're going to be in the Champions League, and who knows, maybe you can take us one step further in that Champions League and get us to the final. However, it looks like they want Benjamin Sesko. It doesn't seem as though Arsenal are in for Viktor Gyokeres. They were linked with him, but now it feels like they're moving forward Benjamin Sesko. That seems to be their priority target. And they ain't going to get Sesko and Gyokeres. I do not see that happening. It'll be one or the other, and it looks like Sesko is going to be the main man there, or the main target they're going for. So if that is the case, who else is in for Viktor Gyokeres? Well, not many clubs have been linked with him. And you look, I said this yesterday in my news again, most of the top clubs have a striker, and most clubs only need one out-and-out starting striker. If Viktor Gyokeres went, let's say, for example, I know it's not happening, let's say he went to City, he'd be back up to Erling Haaland. If he went to Newcastle, he'd be back up for Alexander Isak. So there's not loads of teams that would be in for him. There's still some, because of his goals, the goals he scored. You think there'd be a lot of clubs that are looking at him going, you know what, it's worth bringing him in. But at the minute, it just feels like it's cooling down a little bit. And maybe Gyokeres is looking at it, maybe Sporting looking at it and going, Manchester United might be the best option for the player. Get involved in the chat in the comments and let us know what you want. In other news, have you ever seen that when people tweet, out of all the things that didn't happen, this didn't happen the most? Well, I think you can file this transfer rumour under, of all the transfer rumours that aren't going to happen, this one isn't going to happen the most. I've seen this in the Metro and one or two other papers as well, that Manchester United are in for Gianluigi Donnarumma. Really? Is he going to come to Manchester United? We're still a big club, and I say that all the time, and I've done videos about it. Let's not dismiss the size of Manchester United. We are one of the biggest clubs in the world. However, he has just won a Champions League. He is at a big club in PSG. I know you might argue they're a big fish in a small pond and all the rest of it, but are United really going to bring in Donnarumma? Is that going to happen? We were linked with Emi Martinez recently. It looks like there might be something in that. So if we're getting Martinez, are we getting Donnarumma as well? No. Or maybe we're not getting Martinez. Maybe we are going for Donnarumma. Okay, are we funding that? I'm not sure that makes any sense to me. Let me know what you think. Do you think it could happen? Do you think it should happen? Do you think it's one of those where you go, actually, Jay, this is why it's going to happen? I know a lot of people don't rate Andre Onana. I understand that argument. And I understand the argument of bringing in a player of the quality of Donnarumma. If we could get him, that would be fantastic. I just don't see it happening at all. I think his contract might be up for renewal, and it feels a little bit like, is this a tactic to go, look, I'm going to sign a new contract. Oh, actually, maybe I'm not. I'm going to go to United, and then the PSG go, well, we'll give you a contract extension with loads more money, and he signs on the dotted line. Remember like when Sergio Ramos did that almost every 3 years when he was at Real Madrid? Let me know what you think about that move anyway. Let me know what you think about all the others. Loads of stories, loads of news going on at the minute, so we're going to keep you updated. We're going to be going live. We've got a big interview coming up shortly with a football finance expert. I'm sure you know who that is. So make sure you're subscribing to the channel. Abby J. Motti, this has been the Paper Talk outside. Pretty mild Old Trafford. Thanks for watching.